Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 757A, and today's date is September 3rd, 2015, and the title of this episode is Japan Bank for International Cooperation is leaning towards dumping the dollar with Russia. Now, before I get started, I want to make an announcement. The interview with Rob Kirby has been uploaded to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, should bring you right to that video. Or you can come to the x22report.com site. You will see the video on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we see today the stock market really didn't go anywhere. I mean, it finished above zero. It didn't go negative. It was only up by 24 points at the end. And we know that China's stock market is going to be closed today and tomorrow. We see Europe was way up, and the plunge protection team, the high-frequency traders, they could only get the market up 24 points. And we understand at this point that this entire system that we're looking at, Australia, Europe, Canada, UK, United States, it is completely going to fall apart. I mean, we hear many financial experts out there, many people saying, yes, we have a long way to go. This market is not finished whatsoever. Now, of course, the corporate media, the U.S. government, they're continually trying to convince us that everything is fine, and they'll do this to the bitter end. They will never admit it until everything is completely collapsed. But again, they're not going to take blame for this because they're going to blame this on another country or another group. And they've already started that process with China. And they'll continue with this and expand it if they need to. Or maybe even blame it on two countries or a country and a group. It doesn't really matter at this point. We see Australia right now, of course, their media is saying that their retail sales have unexpectedly fallen, and they don't know why. Well, we know why, because the economies of the private central bank world is not working anymore. I mean, if you really look at all of these countries, we're all interconnected. Each country right now is just swamped with debt. And interest rates are very low. I mean, Australian retail sales fell in July by 0.1%. And we see in Canada, where the corporate media there kind of admitted that they're in a recession. And this is starting because just a couple of months ago, or even a year ago, they're saying that they were in a housing boom. It's incredible. It's not a bubble. This is fantastic. We see growth. We see fantastic things happening. And how quickly that changes. Mario Draghi was out there. And he is saying that he now has the ability to raise QE to 33% from 25%. He also is cutting the euro area inflation forecast for 2015. He says there are now downside risks to growth and inflation. His data also shows him that the economies are growing slower. And the recovery is somewhat weaker at this point. But don't worry. The ECB can adjust size, duration of the QE if needed. Basically what he's saying is, hey, if we have to create or print money, we can do it. We can prop up these banks. We can prop up the markets. But the economies are going to continually fall. They're not going to get better. They're going to give us the illusion that it's getting better. But what they're saying right now is they understand that this whole thing's falling apart. But they don't want to come out and say it. They never will. We see here in the United States, the initial jobless claims have risen for 5 of the last 6 weeks. We had a 12,000 rise to about 282,000 initial jobless claims. This is the biggest weekly rise in 2 months. And right now we see that they're trying to keep this number down. You have to remember, the U.S. government back in 2013 got rid of their department that counts layoffs. But we do have private companies that look into this. And one of them is Challenger Gray. And what we're seeing here is that 2015 is absolutely awful. Challenger notes, so far, in 2015, employers have announced 434,554 job cuts. That is up 31% from the 332,931 planned layoffs in the first 8 months of 2014. And what's worse about this whole entire situation? It reveals the true picture of this economy right now. The monthly totals averaging 54,319 jobs, 2015 job cuts are on track to exceed, now hear this, 650,000 for the year, which would be the highest year since 2009 when we had 1.2 million. So already in this recovery, because we know in 2009, what happened to the market? What happened? The whole thing fell apart. It was the Great Recession. So right now, we are on track to be halfway where we were in 2009. This sure is a strange recovery, isn't it? This is a system that is collapsing. I mean, Obama is out there telling us that we're in this incredible recovery. And right now, we're on track for 650,000 jobs to be lost. In other words, not only is the economy no longer growing at its previous pace, it's contracting. And we've talked about this before. Retail's contracting, housing's contracting, employment is contracting. What do we see back in 2008 going to 2009? The same thing. And they're trying to convince us that we're in a recovery when we're seeing the same thing happen. The retail sector announced 57,000 job cuts this year, which is 90% increase over the 30,000 in 2014. Gee, there's nothing wrong. Retail is doing fine. Then why are all these stores closing? Why all the layoffs? The industrial goods sector saw the second heaviest downsizing in August, with about 7,900 layoffs during the month. So what are we seeing? We're seeing tons and tons of layoffs, which is mimicking what happened in 2009. And like I said, this has been happening all along. This is nothing new. This economy has been collapsing. They just confused everyone with their illusionary statistical numbers. And if we look at what happened when the oil prices have come down, we see in the energy sector, there were 68,000 layoffs related to oil. And this right now is not getting better. Saudi Arabia says they're going to be cutting the price of oil right now to put pressure on Russia. And you know what this means? More layoffs here. And the savings that people are getting, this is not going to go back into retail, into consumerism. It will not help whatsoever, because we already have evidence that it doesn't. They cut the prices back during the holiday season of 2014. Did it help the holiday season? No, it did not. So right now, the economic growth is close to zero, and living standards are declining. Manufacturing is declining. Factory orders are declining. The Baltic Dry Index, which reached a little over 1,000 points, has now dropped to 891. If we look back in time, during this period, the Baltic Dry Index, which is the raw material that is shipped to factories to create the goods, should be between 1,500 and 1,800 points. If we look at the good times, we're down to 891, and it is continually dropping once again. We know there's something wrong in the market because the second largest U.S. pension fund is going to sell 12% of their stock holdings to protect themselves against this downturn that is coming. And the nation's second largest pension fund has about $191 billion in assets. This tells you something bad is coming. Mark Farber is out there and he's saying, I think that because of modern central banking and repeated interventions with the monetary policy, in other words, QE, all around the world by central banks, there is no safe assets anymore. When I grew up in the 50s, it was safe to put your money in the bank on deposit. The yields were low, but it was safe. But nowadays, you don't know what it will happen next in terms of purchasing power of money. What we know is that it's going down. I would rather focus on precious metals, gold, silver. Put your money there. And we know that the central bankers, they would never, ever, ever tell us what's really going on. They lie all the time. I've always said this. Whenever a central banker comes out, a government official comes out and says something, always think the opposite, and you'll be okay. I mean, think about what Ben Bernanke told us back in 2008. He's not forecasting any type of recession. In the year, we had the stock market crash, which started the recession, which really didn't really start the recession. The market was the last indicator that this economy was already falling apart. So what has happened? The central bankers right now, they did all these stress tests in the banking system. And they did this on purpose. Because back in 2008, people were very wary about putting their money in there. They were nervous about the bank system. And they did this to boost investor and public confidence. But we know this was all a bunch of propaganda. We know they weren't really doing stress tests. We know that this had no significance on what was really going on. Because if you really look, like the Dexia Bank, the Bankia, and all the Greek banks, while they were doing all these stress tests, they all failed during this period. And guess what? It didn't catch any of them that they were in trouble. That's how you know this whole thing's a farce. And right now, as Reuters is reporting, and they're citing a paper that was co-authored by Bundesbank economists, banking supervisors should withhold some information when they publish stress test results to prevent both bank runs and excessive risk-taking by lenders. Basically what they're saying, they need to lie to the people. And coming from Jean-Claude Juncker, he says when it gets serious, you have to lie. Not my words, these are his words. The paper presented at a conference in Mannheim last week, but yet to be published in its current form, says stress tests should be used to influence depositor behavior and warns against giving too much away. Basically, regulators should lie to the public and keep them in this illusionary make-pretend world that everything is fine. That's what they're telling us right now. And we know that this whole entire situation is getting much worse because think back to 2008 when the government was telling us that everything was fine, that the economy was doing okay. The Fed came out, told us everything is contained. There's no recession coming. Don't worry about it. Go about your business. It's already starting. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew. Market chaos hasn't caused financial institution stress. Whatever is going on in the stock market, it doesn't matter. The economy is strong despite the stock market volatility. We are on track for the recovery. What? Is he really trying to convince us at this point that everything is fine? No matter what the market's doing? Well, we've already documented that this economy is collapsing. And the stock market is the last boom to tell us, or the corporate media to tell us, and the government to tell us, and the Fed to tell us that we're in trouble. We already know we're in trouble. But they're trying to convince us that it's still fine no matter what the market does. Put your money in the market. Don't take it out. You'll be all right. I would follow the biggest pension fund. If they're removing their funds from the stock market, I would do the same. But we can see right now the Fed is saying the economy looks strong. We're in a recovery. We could still be on track for interest rate hikes. Even Bob Shiller is out there. And he's saying this is a dangerous time. There is a risk of substantial decline. He adds, warning that the recent rebound may be someone's goodwill effort to stabilize the market, and in fact the market's valuation is high now and people are overexposed. He's saying that this market's going to come down a lot more. Now, a couple days ago, we talked about Marko Kalanovic. He's a JP Morgan Chase head quant, and he predicted what was going to happen on Friday, August 24th with the flash crash. And then he accurately predicted the next crash that came down 450 points. And he's back right now. And right now he doesn't have good news. He's saying that we estimate that only about half of total technical selling was completed to date. We estimate a further 100 billion of selling remains to be completed over the next 1 to 3 weeks. And it's going to get worse. So from this point going forward, we're going to see the market come down even further. This system is collapsing. It is not getting better whatsoever. And this is why I continually tell everyone, you need to be prepared. You need food, water, medical supplies, gold, silver, definitely. Keep some cash on hand because you never know when you might need it. Don't get rid of all of it. Have a weapon to protect your family. Have toiletries, extra medical supplies. You need all this. And if you haven't been stocking up, and this is first you're hearing of all this, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have everything all pre-made and ready. You can get seeds, first aid kits, food, water filtering systems. If you need it, it's right there. You can customize what you need. And next week, I'm going to be bringing on someone that will help us prepare for what is coming. And I'll let you know who that's going to be next week. Now, Japan and Russia are finding it very, very difficult to do business with each other. Why? Because of the sanctions that are on Russia. And the Japan Bank of International Cooperation says the country is now leaning towards doing away with the dollar to do trade with Russia. And they're looking to do a direct ruble-yen currency swap. Because they're saying the Western sanctions are making it very difficult to conduct business. And we're starting to see that what these central bankers are doing, they're actually hurting themselves right now because countries cannot do business. And Russia does business with many different countries. And if there are sanctions that are imposed on them, it makes it very difficult. So guess what they have to do? They're going to bypass the dollar. So is the dollar really needed today? It's starting to look like no, it is not. They don't need the dollar. And we're going to see more and more countries dump it. That is what we're going to see. Now, we understand right now from many people that this entire system is very fragile. And we can see from everything that we've talked about in the past up to the present with all the economic data and everything that is coming true right now, where things are completely falling apart and it's getting worse as time goes on. Everyone really needs to think about what and how they're going to prepare. They're going to have to think about what they're going to do when this whole thing completely falls apart. You have to remember, out in the UK, the former advisor to the Prime Minister, he's even out there saying you should have some type of plan ready. A meeting place for your family. Make sure you have all the preps that you need. Because you know that nervous feeling you got when that market was coming down on that Monday and you felt like you didn't have the material that you needed? Because, listen, I've been prepping for quite a while right now. I have a lot of silver. I have not as much gold. The reason I do more silver is because I just don't have the money to get the gold. So I have a lot more silver. I have a lot of food. I have a lot of water. I have medical supplies, toiletries. And when that happened, what was going through my mind was, do I have enough? Will I have time to get more? And it made me nervous. And this is why I've been telling everyone, do not wait for the last minute, the last day. Well, I'll see what happens. And you know what? I could always run out. Well, guess what? You and a couple more million people are saying the same things. Or those people don't even know that they're going to be running out. And you don't want to be caught up in that. You don't want to be stuck in that situation. And I wish we could tell everyone in this country, but a lot of people are going to shut it off, shut down, not hear it. They don't want to hear it. I know I try to bring it up with many people, and it is very, very difficult. And I understand this. And I feel bad. Part of why I'm stocking up so much food is so I can take people in, so I have enough to feed other people, not just my family. And this is why I've been doing it for such a long time, because I know when everything starts to fall apart, I want to make sure that friends who haven't been preparing, or family who haven't been preparing, I can help them in some way. And because at this point, we all need to stick together. This is not a time to, get rid of people or, say, listen, I can't help you. It's a time to say, okay, we need to stick together. We need to be as one. And this is what the government really doesn't want. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.